Hi everybody, I'm Melinda Gallant, and I want to welcome you to another Cape Conversations. Got a great show today. Going to talk about the Sandwich school system and what's going on with the boilers and the roof, and maybe even their new administration building. So come along, let's have another Cape Conversations. Hi everybody, I'm Melinda Gallant, and I have today in the studio with me, oh my goodness, two wonderful people from our fabulous Sandwich school system. I have John Nelson, who I jokingly called John Ricky Nelson, but it's just John Nelson. And also I have with us, of course, our superintendent, who's getting ready to go down the road, Dr. Pam Gould. Hi, thank you so much for joining me on Cape Conversations. So we're going to talk about the schools today. Now, I have to laugh because I said to my producer, Paula Johnson, I said, she said, what do you know about the schools? And I said, well, see, my kid graduated in '95, the last one out of the Sandwich schools, and he was my wild child, so I had had enough of Sandwich schools. I said, I know nothing. I know that, Melinda and Kevin Lassett, they do shows.
Yes,
and got a great
shows.
one going on
Mama
right
Mia,
now.
which was outstanding.
Yeah, I heard
this
about
weekend.
that.
I saw it.
Yeah. So I know that, and I know occasionally I'll see a sticker or they've won something or field hockey or something.
Boys hockey just won the state championship.
There you go. I did see that.
Yeah, it's fabulous.
However, when it comes to nuts and bolts, and this is where everybody gets all in a dither and their hair catches fire.
Yep.
And that is when it comes to spending money for the schools.
100%.
Now, when my kids went to school there, the door that used to be, I don't even know if it's still there, the auditorium door that was on the front of the building, is it still there?
Yep. Yes,
it is.
Yeah, okay. Well, I did theater things there, right? And we would rent, the theater company would rent, the theater group I was with, rented the auditorium. And I would go out that back door and I would see, and you could see light around it. I thought, oh my God, well, it was being deferred. I asked the maintenance people, they said, oh no, we're deferring that. Well, are you deferring it until it falls out? I mean, how long are you gonna defer that metal door? So I hope things have changed since then. However, speaking of hair catching on fire, now we've got a lot of stuff going on in town. And the school administration, you're going to be moving because we're opening a new senior facility for rentals and whatever with a developer. Tell me, John, like you were talking to a sixth grader about how all this is going to work, not only financially, but how physically is this going to work?
So for the moving portion?
Yes.
Yes. So we're vacating the wing school. The wing school's been sold, and we have to relocate our office function, our central office function. We have about 21 people, I think, right now that currently are housed in our central office, and we're relocating. It's been a long-term goal and plan to relocate to the Human Services building.
Okay.
And so the Human Services building,
The one up on Quaker Meeting House Road?
Right outside of Oak Ridge.
right outside of Oak Ridge, at the end of the Oak Ridge driveway there. And so the Human Services building, I think, was built in the late 70s, early 80s, and is pretty much, they've done some interior renovations over the years to.
It was built in early 80s because I just moved to town.
Was it 83?
Yeah, I think 82 or 83, yeah.
And the.
It was state of the art at the time.
It's a nice little building.
It's a nice little facility. It's about 7,000 square feet.
Yeah.
And it's currently set up to be used as a Human Services Council on Aging. It's not set up for professional office space.
Right.
And so to move the school department into it, it requires a lot of interior renovation.
You have to gut it?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's a pretty significant process that a lot of interior walls have to be removed. Not all of them.
Yeah.
We're trying to save walls where we can.
Yeah.
So we started the process to look at how we could move into that building years ago, just by kind of doing walkthroughs and trying to come up with ideas for how we could fit in there. So this fall, we engaged a professional architectural firm, Rouse Associates, out of Attleboro, I believe.
think, yeah,
Attleboro.
Yeah.
And so they started the feasibility and schematic design process with us.
Wonderful.
In late fall. And,
Makes sense.
And,
Yep.
Right. And so they assessed our existing operation and worked with our admin team to try to develop what the plan would look like moving into that building. And so once we came to a floor plan that everyone agreed on, they sent it out to their schematic cost estimator to come up with a price.
Sure.
Total
That's
dollar value.
typical.
And so, prior to that, we had to have a budget number in for the process.
Right.
So we called around and used a number that people were municipalities are held to a lot of different standards than
Right.
the typical homeowner. So
Right.
we called other municipals to see what other renovation costs were coming in at, and the market's very challenging now. Everybody knows about inflation and
Right.
product availability. So we used a high dollar value of about like $287 a square foot
Right.
to do the renovation.
Right.
And
Times 7,000.
yes,
Yep,
times
yep.
7,000,
Yep.
which came
So
in.
people do the math.
Yeah.
Yep, came in right about $2 million.
$2 million.
Thank you
Yeah.
for yep. And so it took a while to get the cost estimate done because there's a lot of work
Sure.
going on in the
Sure.
industry now and backlogs, and they're trying to make sure they give us a good price. So we finally received our cost estimate
Yep.
back, and the estimate for construction work actually came back at 1.6 million roughly.
Right.
So that's within our kind of what we originally had planned for our budget.
Right. Right.
So, the next, that's kind of how we approach the project, I think.
Yeah.
I think, did that answer kind of?
Yeah, that answers the question. Well, now, can I call you Dr.
You
Pam?
can call me Pam. You can-
Oh, I like Dr.
all
Pam.
right, now you can do whatever you want. Thank you.
Here's the thing.
Yep.
Everybody gets all crazy
Yes.
over the schools and spending money.
Mm-hmm.
This is only a part of a larger
Correct.
conversation this year, correct?
So I think what's getting lost a little bit in it too, in the conversations that we've been hearing, because we live our world, so we know what we do.
Yeah.
There's two pieces that go on. One is that I think what people see that we spend for maintenance and operations,
Right.
and what this is, which is a bigger, like the one-time project-y type of thing.
Yeah.
Because I've heard people even say, well, why can't you just do that within your budget? If we had this kind of money in our operating budget,
Well, yeah,
oh my gosh, the things
But there
we
isn't
could
a
be
s-
doing.
there
You
isn't a s-
don't
yeah.
possibly.
No.
Even our maintenance and operations, in the sense when John first arrived here, his entire budget was about $380,000.
For all the schools?
So we're talking less than $1 per square footage in our
That's
buildings.
crazy.
You can't do anything with that.
I ran shopping centers.
Exactly.
You cannot,
do that. But that's what we inherited. So we have over time robbed Peter to pay Paul from different different
Right.
areas, and over the past 5 to 6 years, he's now at a budget. Now we're anywhere given between $700,000 and $800,000. So we're getting at least to the $1 per square foot.
Right.
But that's simply to maintain our buildings every
Right.
year.
So this year, though,
But
there's
this
bigger
is,
things.
So now we're looking at, you've got to look at the envelope, the entire envelope. Our desire for the town is that the town doesn't have to build a brand new building anytime in the very near future.
Right.
But if we don't take care of the buildings,
Yeah, they're
that's
gonna-
going to
right,
happen.
Right.
And so what this represents is, okay, what would we need to do in the short and long term
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that we're maintaining what has to be in there? So, for example, your home, you every once in a while have to replace your roof.
Yeah,
you
every
every
20
once in
years.
a while have to
Yeah.
replace your heating system.
Yeah.
So we are at end of life on a number of these different things. And so the running joke for me has always been, no one wants to spend this money. I would rather take $10,000, $3,000, I'll just make a reasonable number. I'd rather spend $3,000 of my money to go on a cruise.
Right.
I don't want to replace my roof with that.
Right.
But you know what? We're homeowners. We have to.
Right.
And that's the hard conversation. So while we appreciate, all of us live in towns that have to pay taxes for these kinds of things.
Right.
And so what we're trying to do is be very transparent. John and his team have done a ton of work to present a 15-year plan. That's not what this is only a portion of it.
Right.
But we're trying to be very transparent about what we see in the next, we've had people come in, they've done studies for us over time.
Okay, so what we're talking about, the Human Services Building
Yes, so
becoming
that's right.
Sandwich School Administration Building. And then we're talking about the 3 schools that were left, 2 elementary schools and 1 high school that is left,
Yep.
right, that you have.
Yep.
That needs significant maintenance
Correct.
repair.
Yep.
for lack of a better word,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Okay. Now, as I said, I worked in shopping centers. I know all about roofs.
Yep.
And of course, we always put flat roofs. Well, I don't know about the flat.
There's some areas.
Yeah,
that,
some,
yeah,
right.
John could go
But
into far more
flat
detail of
roofs, why does anybody put, and they do it on every single shopping center I've ever managed, flat roof, and then
cheaper?
they always leak. Well, I
Well,
know it's cheaper, but they always leak.
They do it, we put a lot of HVAC equipment on flat roofs.
Right, right. And then you have people going up and down and,
yeah. And
all
that's
that
the
stuff.
part
So anyway, I digress about my own, why about flat roofs? So what you need to do now is, so let's put where you have to have a space. Is anybody saying you're not allowed to have space?
No.
What are you,
So
a
we
trailer?
keep saying that we've been squatting. But
Right.
When I
Well, you
first got
have.
here, this is my funny joke, because I got here 6 years ago.
I know, I interviewed
Right,
you.
I remember that. And so I was told, we're not going to be here very long, don't unpack all your boxes.
Right.
My
That was-
boxes are still packed up, because
Yeah.
6 years later, we haven't moved.
Right.
I get that happens in a town.
Right,
We've moved
right,
around. We understand that that there is also different areas. There's a misunderstanding that we haven't looked at different areas.
Of
to
course
be
you
in.
have.
We have looked at Jan Sebastian building, for example, where some of the town offices are going to be vacant. It doesn't make any sense for us to go there,
So
because they can make a ton of money on selling that
selling,
building.
right.
The old police station down on 6A, that would need far more money to
Right.
so we have seen the looks of that.
Right.
So when we've gone
Although
through
the
all of
jail
this-
cells in the
Yeah,
bottom would
we
be
said our
great.
security would be
Yeah,
fantastic.
there we go.
Our HR files would be great. We even originally, way before the town did, looked at Santander building. The problem is that was far too big for us. We
Yeah.
couldn't afford to
Right.
do that at
Well,
all.
the
But
other
it was
thing
a
too is,
thought.
not that Jan Sebastian is a bad place.
Yeah.
It's not for the building department and all
Well,
that
right.
stuff, right? It's not a bad place for them. You're the school
well, that's a piece
administration.
of it.
You need to be close to the schools. You'll be
Yes.
right almost across from the high school,
That
just
location-
next to the Oak Ridge School.
It looks like a central
yes.
office. The
It's
location is
crazy.
outstanding.
Right.
Now, we all get sticker shock when we see a value of what it comes in at. But as John said earlier, the municipal rules that we have to follow are just different.
Right.
I get it.
Yeah.
And so someone even said too about selling that property instead. Let's see if we could make some money. It's not a commercial property.
No, you can't
It's a
do that.
residential, and I just
Yeah.
don't think, because the driveway goes out into the driveway into Oak Ridge.
They
I don't
wouldn't
see
allow
that
it.
that would be
No.
feasible. So it does make sense for us. But as John said, inside when you look, there's an industrial kitchen.
Right.
There is a big wide, if people haven't been in the building, a big wide open space in the middle.
Yes.
So the idea that
Meals on Wheels used to go out of there. I don't know
yeah,
if it still
fabulous,
does.
and it's all
Yeah.
good stuff. The issue is, and John is right, there's this mindset some people have, well, just go in and put cubbies in there. Oh, but let's go with that. We do have, even in our design, some cubby space.
Yeah.
But the reality is, using that big central space, you still have to put electricity there.
Yeah,
you have to
right.
You have to get rid of your industrials. This isn't going to be zero or
Right.
it's
right,
not. There's
right.
still going to be a lot of money to be put in.
Right.
Whether we do, what our goal is, this value that this represents is getting it to a place where you won't have to do anything for a long time.
Right.
Like picture your house, right?
Right.
That's the whole point
Right.
of it. And it'll be the forever home
So-
of central office.
Okay, right. The forever home is
Not
central
the
office.
superintendent's office, as they call it, by the way. This is
Oh, it's-
central office with a lot
Right.
of other people in it.
Right,
I keep
right.
hearing the superintendent's office like I'm the only one
Going to
or
be
the-
in
the
there.
new super, the
It'll be
only one
very
going in there.
palatial. You'll sit on a throne.
It's an entire group of people, but neither here. That's a pet peeve of mine.
So the central office
central
for the
office.
sandwich school system.
Yes.
That's one thing.
Yes.
Right. And that is a $1.2 million.
So there's also, one of the things that I want to make sure is clear to people is this $2 million figure has come
Right.
around. And it's sticker shock for all of us. We're 100% in agreement, but it is the prevailing wage. It's what's going on
Have
out
you
there.
built a deck recently?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I put a little addition on my house, yes. But what's getting lost in a little bit in that, not that the total value is changing, but with the $750,000 sinking fund money that
Right.
the town already had saved
Ready
for
to
this,
go, right.
it's really what we're putting into this debt exclusion is about 1.25, give or
That's
take
right.
a few
Okay.
dollars. So
All right.
that's really what we're looking for,
Okay.
is the 1.25.
And then, that's over here.
Yes, so there's
Okay.
three
Okay.
pockets of this whole
Right.
thing.
So the next pocket is
Is the infrastructure.
the
And he
infrastructure.
will speak much better to that.
John,
And then I'll
take it
come back to
away.
the last one.
Like you're talking to a 6-year-old because,
Right. And
I call it
hopefully,
infrastructure.
If I start getting off in the weeds, just pull me back.
Okay.
Pull me back.
okay, we'll try.
So the plan is broken out. The rest of the plan is broken out into what I would call 3 buckets. It's the building envelope,
Right. Which means the outside of the building, including the roof and the walls.
the shell, the
Right.
roof.
Everything from the studs
flashing,
out.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
And then
Those people who live in condos understand studs
Yes,
out.
yes.
that's a very good point. So, and then our mechanical systems, we have a lot
Right.
of aged HVAC and
And how
boiler
old are
systems.
they?
So
Some of them?
everything is original to the last renovation or construction in each building. So
Wow.
Oak Ridge and Forestdale,
Before
they
your
were
kid
built,
graduated.
they
Yeah.
were built in 1989.
I know.
The boilers are from 1989.
So think of your house, you'd have
Right.
to be replacing
Yeah,
your
yeah,
boilers.
yeah.
The mechanical equipment at those two schools, same age, and then
Wow.
at the high school, the building was renovated, and so it had a significant addition renovation in 2001.
Right.
But
Well, that's 20 years ago.
20 years ago, and a lot of the flashing issues and details we're having on the exterior of the building are the older masonry and brickwork that are from the 70s. So.
And with the salt air we have on the Cape, it does do its damage.
And those metal doors rot out.
Yes.
And I've seen them, people. I've
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
seen that happen.
Yeah.
And okay, so go ahead, continue.
So we have this, our mechanical systems are, it really normally breaks out to mechanical, electrical, and plumbing.
Right.
We only have, most of it's mechanical work. We do have a little bit of electrical work in our
Right.
auditoriums, in our
Right.
stage,
Right.
at the high school. And then we have playgrounds. So we have our playgrounds.
So that's
see, I
I'm calling that our third bucket.
That makes
Yeah.
sense. Okay.
Yep, so those are the three.
Because the problem we were having there is, those have been in dire need at Forestdale and Oak Ridge for a long time.
Right.
The problem we're having is, as if anyone has ever tried to put a playground into a municipal building, we're talking $400,000 or $500,000. We
Right.
do not have that in our budget.
Right.
So we've been trying other ways. We've gone to, what's the committee?
Is there
in
something
town
where
that,
there's,
that we went to a few years ago?
The CPC.
CPC, and to be fair to them, they have a lot of people asking them for
Yeah,
money.
lots and
So
lots
they
and
didn't,
lots.
weren't able to do some of this stuff. Go ahead.
But I know there are playgrounds, ones that are very, contemporary
Yeah,
for
sure.
today's time, that are done through all kinds of methods.
Usually a CPC type of thing.
Right, or people come and help build it, and
Right.
Parents and
There's,
townspeople.
that's parts you can do, but it's still to keep up with the ADA and all
Right,
the different
right.
requirements, which he can go into far more
Yeah.
detail about. We're out of compliant now. Besides the fact that like Forestdale especially, they're falling apart
Right.
because they're old, and they were also built for the old K to 8 buildings. So at Forestdale now, we only have pre-K to 2.
Right.
So some of the equipment that was there is too old for that age group.
Right.
And that's nobody's fault. It's just the way
Right.
the reconfiguring of the district happened.
Right,
They
right.
can't use some of this
Right,
equipment.
right.
So I cut you off, but
Yeah, no, I don't know where you cut me off. I don't know.
No,
well, about after the playgrounds.
Well, if you're talking about the playgrounds, let's
Yep.
talk about being ADA compliant. Why is that necessary?
It's necessary to serve, they're outside of code reasons, building code or access code.
Let's talk about the other reasons.
It's really to support our students in the
Right.
buildings, right? We have a vast, a very diverse student body, and making the play spaces accessible is a huge priority
all
for
children.
everybody. To make, so universal access is just our playgrounds are used. I try to explain this to people. Our playgrounds get used more than any other playground in town.
Sure.
There's 700 students at Oak Ridge and 500 or 600 at
Yeah.
Forestdale.
Wow.
They're on the playground every day.
Right.
185 days a year, and so that's a significant group of population, a group of our students and townspeople who are using these play spaces on a daily basis, and supporting all of their needs so everyone can access it is a huge responsibility and something we should do. I think the school department feels very strongly to support that access.
But we just don't have the money in our operating budget to do 2 playgrounds that give or take, say, $1 million. We just
Right.
don't have that.
Right.
So you have to find other ways to do it, whether you do, again, some people will do CPC. You could certainly do a fundraising event, but by the time
But you're never gonna raise $1 million.
It's just not going to happen.
No.
Not in time.
No.
And that's the struggle we're having, is how do we best
Right.
get to this place?
Right.
Do we have people that are good-minded and would do anything for us? Of course.
Yeah.
But we
No.
still have to get the equipment, and you have to get equipment that is appropriate
Right.
at this stage.
Right.
So we need some help.
Okay. So I'm going to go over it again because I'm
Please
a dumb
do.
person.
No, you're not.
That's right.
But it is smart to go over it.
Yeah. Okay. So the one bucket
Yep.
is the administration building,
Yes.
the school,
Which has to
central
happen because we are getting kicked
administration.
out of our building at some
That's
point.
right.
Our squatting is going to be over
Yes,
soon.
those people are going to start charging you
Yes,
rent
they
if you
are,
stay there.
they are.
All right, so that's over here.
Yes.
That's this bucket,
Yeah.
right? And for that, we already have some funds that are going to go
Yep.
towards it, but we need $1 million too.
Give or take, yeah.
In debt exclusion. Just that.
Just that.
Just that. Then we've got this bucket, and this bucket are the schools, the actual mechanicals, the roof. Is it roof too?
So
Some
there
roofs,
are
yeah.
portions of the roof at the high school that need to be replaced.
Yes, some.
Portions. Yep.
It's a flat roof, I
It
bet.
is flat. It is a, it is a
That's
flat
where the
roof.
HVAC
It a
is.
flat- It is a flat roof.
Yeah.
It is.
So call it like the envelope and the inside, the
All right,
guts.
right.
You know,
Okay.
the
So we have
mechanical.
the envelope
Yep.
and then the guts
Yeah.
of the building, right? So we're thinking those people in condos, studs out.
Yep.
And then we're thinking basement down.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay?
That's a very good way to put
So
it.
then the third one
Is the playground.
Is the playground issue, and we all want our kids to be happy and have
Yes.
fun, and we want it to be safe.
Yes. And we do have, I also want to be clear to people is that we do have some skin in the game, for lack of a better way to say
Sure.
this, right?
Yeah.
So one of the ways is some of the design fees that we're going to be putting into the building relocation, central office.
Yeah.
The guts
Yeah.
piece is we've gotten through the ESSER money, which has been the COVID relief money.
Oh, yeah.
ESSER 3, for
Yeah.
people don't need to care about most of that, but
Yeah.
through ESSER 3, money that we got $2.4 million.
Wow.
So of that 2.4 million, 2 million of that we're putting into the guts,
Wonderful.
and 85,000 we're putting into the playgrounds. We had appealed to the Department of Education. They had some pretty strict criteria of that
How to
money,
use
as they
it,
should.
right.
And we made an appeal that there was part of that was for kind of mental health, social emotional learning for kids. Understandable. So we made the appeal that 85,000 we'd like to go to the playgrounds, which are, we believe,
Right.
the social emotional, mental health, et cetera. And they agreed with us.
We talk about our kids, we don't want them sitting around.
Exactly. So that's our, of that, almost all of that 2.4 million then is going into helping this.
Right.
And that's why when people are going to see at town meeting that the overarching was 15 point something million, the debt exclusion is actually for the 13 million.
Right.
It's the 750 from the sinking fund, it's the
Right.
2 million from us, it's the 85 from us. And so that, I want people to understand, we do have skin in the game with this.
Right.
As we
right.
should.
Yeah.
We just
yeah.
cannot come up with $13 million.
Right.
We just don't have it.
Right. And we have schools in town,
Yes.
and we have kids in town.
Yes.
And we have to make sure their buildings are safe.
Yep.
I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
the roofs, the metal doors,
Yeah.
whatever it may be, and then you
Yeah.
have the playgrounds.
The cost of, I was at another district doing an accreditation visit, high school
Mm-hmm.
accreditation visit. They had a brand new building. So this is what we're trying to do at $13 million
Right.
is not build, this district had a high school that was built at $238 million.
Wowzer.
Okay, that's what we're trying to avoid.
Right.
By doing these, they're small, they're big to some people, and I appreciate that. I don't want to minimize that. But upkeeping your home
Right.
is
it's-
is better than building a brand new one.
Right. So it's just all about the dollars.
It stinks.
and cents.
It stinks. We all appreciate. No one wants to do it, but we don't see how do you not do it
So,
and have that honest
so
conversation.
what has been the approval process so far through the town?
So we had to school committee. They've been hearing about this for years,
of
obviously.
course.
So they took an official vote to say that this is the process we want to go down. Then we went.
Mm-hmm. And we have 3 buckets.
And we explained all of that to them. They knew that. Then you have, so in order to get on the town meeting warrant,
Right.
the Board of Selectmen must vote to approve this. Not that, they're not saying that they agree with every single thing. That's not their job.
Yeah.
Their job is to just get it to the town meeting.
But well, here's the thing though, is you can't nickel and dime this
Exactly.
to death.
This-
Okay,
yeah,
so
this is prioritized.
let's do the first boiler in
Yeah,
the basement of the high
it's
school.
not gonna work well.
But let's not do the second boiler.
Because
That
invariably
makes
that
no
second one's
sense.
going to break down
Right,
as soon as
it
you
makes
don't
no
do it. Yeah.
sense.
And they're all the same age.
And things are not getting cheaper, things are getting more
Exactly.
expensive. And it's always been that way. Anybody who says that we want to build it
Yeah.
5 years from now makes no sense.
No.
So now tell me about, you were talking about a plan. There's plans about how to do things, right?
In part of what John and his staff have been working on, and please jump in, John, at any point, was this idea of this full envelope plan of what
Right.
we've had
What
some
needs to be done.
consultants come in and do this. So
Right.
what we did was, because you don't do a debt exclusion for 15 years. Like
Yeah.
you can't do that. So
Right.
what John has done is break it down into 5-year increments.
I see.
And so there is the big chunk at the front end here, because
Yeah.
these are things that are at end of life.
Right.
So that's the 1 to 5 year plan.
Right.
Then there's, and the town has this kind of a spreadsheet. There's one tab that's 1 to 5 years,
Yeah.
one tab is 6 to 10, and then 11 to 15. So there will be times we're gonna have to come back, but we want it to be transparent to people. They know what's coming.
Right.
This is something that the town should understand is coming.
Right.
Again, we all don't love when our boiler breaks at our house,
Right.
our heating system, but we know it's coming.
But I have a question for you, though. So is this because we just never have taken care of things before?
No.
Not totally.
The
no.
answer is no.
No,
Okay.
because things
But you
just
know
hit
what
their
I'm
natural
saying?
life.
Well,
I know
let's
what this,
let's
I know
kick that
this-
can
yeah.
down the road. and, you know.
I know
Yeah.
exactly what you're saying, and no, the issue, if you look at the mechanical systems and the projects we're doing, we're replacing boilers that are at the end of life.
Yes.
Right.
They've actually.
Well, they're 20 years old.
Yeah.
they're-
More than
the,
that,
The
30.
2 boilers are 30 years
30
old
years
that
old.
we're
Oh,
replacing.
Because remember, you
Yeah,
built
they're-
Oak Ridge and
they're
Forestdale at the
30
exact same times. The
Right.
downside is you got to replace things at the same
know.
time.
Yeah, when we go to replace them, they'll be 34 years old. So,
Yeah.
so that's actually extended their lifespan.
Right.
And there's been significant investment over the years into that.
Right.
The HVAC equipment at the high school that we're replacing is, from 2000. It's corroded from the salt air.
Right.
It provides the main fresh air to our building.
Right.
And so, we've extended the life of that. It's not. We need a new air handler. It's
Right.
rotted. It's
Right.
falling apart. And then, the mechanical systems at Oak Ridge and Forestdale were designed in the late 80s. They underventilate the space. It's a problem that was identified during our COVID plan response.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, we're also adding, air conditioning to those 2 buildings.
Right.
To help with the significant moisture issues that we have.
Right.
You could, to go back to your original question, Melinda, you could make the argument, say, for example, the central office, that we would say that our central office team, prior to my arrival, have moved like 5 times
Right.
in that many years.
Right.
The amount of money that is spent. Could there have
Right.
been a better solution? Maybe. I don't know.
Well,
but it's
hindsight's
2020.
Yeah.
But I would argue there should have been a permanent building at some point along
Right.
the line. Okay, there
Right.
wasn't. But this is the permanent building.
Right.
So that was one. Playgrounds, we could say, should we have been keeping that up more across the line? But it takes a lot of money, and people didn't, again, we've gone to different organizations. So, but it's, at this point, semantics. Hindsight is, we have maintenance plans to go forward with everything going forward. We have had them. They have made everything last. His team is phenomenal what they've been doing.
So I think, to talk
Yeah,
about
yeah.
the playgrounds, especially, they're 25 years old.
Yeah.
They have a lot of
Right.
use.
Yep.
And
Well, they have
They
use
got-
after school hours, too.
Fantastic use, as
for all
they
the
should.
sports groups that use
As
our
they should.
fields.
Yeah.
And, they need a major renovation. It makes a lot more sense to replace it than
Yes.
it does to
Yeah,
do a
renovation, right.
Get
With the
we
modernization
could spend
of them.
$100,000 and get another 5 to 10 years out of it, as opposed to we could get another 25 if we
Right.
spent 250.
Just do it right. Do it
Right.
right.
So
So,
that's they're really not meeting the needs of our students right now
Not
either.
right
So
now.
we'd renovate it to make it work, as opposed to
Right,
do the
right,
right thing.
right, right.
now, so the big next part of this discussion, and Bill Jennings, our town treasurer,
Yeah.
will have, is, and we'll talk about this at town meeting too, is this idea of the advantage Sandwich has.
Mm-hmm.
Some people won't see it this way, is this, a town always needs debt. It's actually healthy. Think of your credit card, to have your credit ratings
Right.
and stuff. We all know.
Don't
we
get
need to-
rid of your credit cards
You don't.
altogether, right.
And so this idea of what Bill and Bud call backfilling debt. So we have debt coming off of the town. So you could just let it go, and our taxes could go down. I understand that. But the idea is that actually can hurt your credit rating too.
Right,
And so this
as a
idea
town.
of backfilling, this is actually coming at a very good time, because it's not going to, and Bill has a very good presentation that he'll share at town meeting, where for the first couple of years, it does go up a little bit, but then it starts the decline
Right.
down, which it is what you want it to do.
Right.
And so that's really, I think, for the taxpayer, I think they're trying to do a really good job of putting them in essentially the same place they're in now,
Right.
and not having it go up significantly.
Right.
And I think there's also this discussion out there that people are calling it a Prop 2.5. This is not a Prop 2.5.
No, it is not.
Because that adds to your taxes forever.
Right.
This is not. This is a debt exclusion which will come
Right.
off the rolls after a bit.
Right.
So I think backfilling debt is a good idea. It doesn't, I think the first year, we're using average, it would increase about $10 the first year, and I think it's like $8 the next year, and it keeps going down.
Right,
So
right.
what we're talking about is all
Well,
of this for $10, if you look at it conceptually.
Right.
I understand it's not. You're paying taxes.
Right.
I appreciate that.
Right.
I don't
well,
want to minimize
and
that.
this is a kitchen table issue, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
100%.
And with inflation and with everything else
100%.
that's
I don't
going
want to
on.
minimize that.
Right.
But I want people to put it in perspective
Right,
of what,
right.
as best we can and what is smarter down the road.
And here's the other thing: everybody's houses in Sandwich have gone up.
Yes. Ugh, I get it.
You know.
Your taxes go.
Well, the taxes
own
are going up,
those.
but the evaluations of
100%.
everybody's houses have
100%.
gone up.
So I don't want to minimize that, but we
Right.
also can't we can't
But you
not
have to have
take
your
care of our
schools.
buildings for
Right.
at the expense.
Right.
How do we
Right.
have that really tough discussion
Right.
with
Right.
everybody?
Well, I think thinking of it as buckets.
Yep.
I also think of as relating it to your own home and how
Yeah.
you do it, and what you're talking about is just a lot more costly.
Yeah.
By any means, And I will say, put in a deck, which we did last summer, and what we thought was going to be one price, it was like, whoa, doctor.
I get that.
So,
But putting it off then would be
but
even worse.
even worse.
And
There's
that's
no
what we
doubt
keep
about it.
talking
And that's
about,
what
too.
what
And
makes
the
sense.
other thing is, and Mr. Jennings keeps talking about this too, is the interest rate right now
Is
is
still
way
lower.
better
Right.
than if we waited this out.
Right.
So
And
again,
you-
that whole
yeah.
thing, that hard discussion.
You
hold your
gotta do
nose.
it before the
Yeah,
feds do
hold your nose
something.
and say, we know this stinks, but we've got to do it.
Yeah,
type of
because
mentality.
you need to do it before the feds.
Yep.
And they say there could be 3 or 4 more increases
Exactly.
this
So
year.
we want to be smart about this.
Right.
We do want it to be smart.
Right.
So
Well,
hope we
I
helped.
am the brain of a 6th grader or 6-year-old.
Do you
Maybe
understand
it's-
a little
I
bit?
understand.
Good.
I understand the bucket part. That's how they explained my 401k to me when I first got one 100 years ago. So I do understand it. So
we also want to be clear to people, as people are watching this, we will go out and talk with anybody.
Right.
We need people to understand. I'm not saying how you're going to vote. That's not the point. But I want to make sure when everyone walks into town meeting,
They've
because
got the
remember, it's a
information.
town meeting and a vote. Because
Right.
it's a debt exclusion, it has to
Right.
do both. So it'll be Monday night and then Thursday, right
Right.
away.
Right.
But we want people to understand, so we will talk with anybody.
So-
we'll come into your homes, we'll do anything you need.
So if I'm a group, I'm Sandwich and Newcomers. I can call
Invite
you
us
up,
in,
Pam?
we'll talk.
Okay.
Because we want
All
to,
right.
again, we're not telling you how to vote, but we
Right.
want to make sure you're educated.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
So
I
you make
gotcha.
a good vote, one way
Yeah.
or the other.
Excellent.
But we will do
Thank
that.
you. Thank
All
you
right.
so much. Thank you for explaining it to me. I was
got
vote
it.
for it anyway, but
Thank you.
you.
I appreciate it. We really do.
All
Taking the
right.
time with us.
Thank you. Wow, Dr. Pam Gould, our superintendent of schools, and Mr. John Nelson, head of all of our facilities for the schools. I think they explained it very well, how and where the money is going and how it's going to all be spent. So make sure you go to town meeting and make sure you vote and make sure we support the Sandwich schools. Now, that may be, yes, I'll vote for this, or maybe, no, I won't. But always support our schools and our children. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time on another Cape Conversations.
The views expressed in this program are the views of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the SCTV staff or board of directors.